All right, live from Salt Lake City, Utah, this is Heart of the Matter. I'm your host, Shawn McCraney, and I actually happen to have all three daughters, one son-in-law, and my wife next to me to launch tonight's show. So I just wanted to get them up here. So grateful. We've traveled together and changed and gone through things with our faith, and of course always loving Jesus, and so we're very grateful. Have an addition here, Matt. He joined the family through marriage. He married this one right here, and it's such a blessing. Matt's a Southern California boy, Berkeley grad, and videographer for Thrasher magazine. One of the most radical skateboarders you've ever seen. This is Matt. So great to have him in our family. And then we have Cassidy, who is a filmmaker and writer. They work together. And then we have Delaney over there, right there, who just waved. And she is in a second year in grad school at University of Pennsylvania in architecture.
Michigan.
University of Michigan. And and then we have Mallory. She does all of our music, putting the Word of God to music. And so anything really quickly. And we have our grandboys and Nicholas, her husband, who aren't here. They're at home causing great trouble. So any thoughts, Mary, all these years, quickly?
I'm speechless.
That's the first time ever. Nothing?
It's been a ride, but well worth it.
It's been a ride, but well worth it. Cassidy McCraney?
We're grateful for it all. Grateful to God.
Amen. And Brother Matt, not to put you on the spot, but?
Love the show and the direction lately.
Excellent, thank you. Oh. Delaney McCraney?
Ditto to it all.
Thank you, Pennsylvania student. Just kidding. And ditto to it all. And Mallory?
Yeah, God is good. Proud of the family. I'm grateful to everyone out here who supports, and really grateful to you guys.
Grateful to you. Thanks, you guys. We are really excited about tonight. We are about to get an update first from Sam Young, the legendary now Sam Young, and he's going to tell us all about the really important thing he's doing, and then we're going to come back and do the rest of the show with Brother Dan Weiss, and we'll talk to Dan all about what he's doing. Hello, brother.
Shake your hand.
Thank you
Shawn,
for standing and shaking
again.
like a fine LDS. Oh, look at
I
him.
can still stand. Look at that. 18 days and I can still stand.
18 days what? Tell us, Sam. 18 days what?
Okay, so I'm here in Salt Lake City for an action with Protect LDS Children that we're calling Hunger Strike and Spotlight. So I'm doing a hunger strike. At this point, I'm 18 days into it. And the purpose of the hunger strike and the spotlight, I'm asking everybody else who is interested in protecting our children to put a spotlight on the interview practice, the danger and how damaging these interview practices are. So both of those things are going forward strong. 18 days into it, 18 days with people sharing all over the place.
Wow. So they're sharing on social media, they're sharing by coming and doing interviews with you, they're sharing in emails to each other. It really has caught on fire, hasn't it?
We've had an awful lot of stuff going on, and not just sharing on social media, because Shawn, you may not be familiar with the Mormon culture, that it's really this great culture of fear. Yeah. You cannot express your true feelings without worrying about losing business, losing family, losing relationships, losing church status. So many people that support this cause that are in the church remain silent, or if they can't post on social media, everybody can talk to their non-member neighbors. There's no real fear of doing that. So we're having people kind of spread the word around to the non-Mormon community of what we are doing behind closed doors to our children.
Being picked up by news outlets?
Yes, we've had national news at this point, actually worldwide news. We've received an awful lot of, so the first day that we announced it, day one, actually I announced it within media, I was in day 3 of the hunger strike. And that we got a ton of good media coverage. Last Monday we called another press conference. We got some additional media coverage out of that. This last Sunday we had a very special meeting called the Samaritan's Party, and we had a bunch of good media that came out of that too. The next news conference we'll call will be on day 23 this coming Sunday. And I'm hoping that I've been told, I don't know how all the media works. I don't know how you get the best press coverage. I just put one foot in front of the other and say, okay, we got to do something else because our kids are still in danger. So I was told by a reporter at the first press conference, he said, Sam, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but if you can make it to 21 days, that's Gandhi. Gandhi's longest was 21 days. You'll get national press coverage. Well, I hope he's right. I'm going to 23 at least.
Woo!
And so the next press conference will be this coming Sunday.
So just really quickly, the curious side of human nature is how you doing with the fast?
Well, I have been surprised at how well I've done. Shawn, you, again, something you probably don't know, most of us put on stores of energy over the years.
No, I'm not familiar with it at all.
I didn't think you would be.
You're speaking a foreign language, but continue.
Okay. Well, our bodies are pretty smart things. And so I've got these energy stores, and it turns out our bodies adjust to eating ourselves pretty well.
Wow.
So I'm doing well. Every once in a while I get a little bit lightheaded. If I bending down and standing up is not a good idea for me. Standing up from the chair will be okay. I got to be a little careful, but that's really about the only effect. Other bodily functions kind of change.
Ooh.
When you're not eating anything.
Wow.
Well, certain things change. But no, I'm doing pretty good.
Final thing, Sam, we have Dan tonight, but really appreciate you taking time out, coming here and doing this. So many people are talking about it, and they're talking about a really good cause. What's the deal with the chair with the apostles? What's that about?
So for 15 days, we invited an apostle to come join us outside of Temple Square. And actually, I told the apostles, we'll meet anywhere. If you're going to come, we'll go to your place. And if you don't want Sam Young to be there, I'll skedaddle. We're inviting you to meet with victims and survivors of bishops' interviews, people that were severely wounded, traumatized when they were children, and they've lived with this for years, sometimes decades. Come hear their stories. Come hear the pleadings of those that still carry deep trauma in their soul. So every night we started with the lowest in seniority, went up to President Nelson last Sunday, and we provided a chair for them. The chair remained empty every night. Now, Shawn, I took 2 days off, not of the fast, but 2 days off of doing these Templeside chats. You'll be the first to know this. I'm going to be announcing this to everybody else tomorrow, but starting tomorrow when we start it back up, I'm not inviting the apostles. They can come if they want, but they've left the chair empty. They've ignored all these people that have been hurt by their policies. But tomorrow, it was Templeside chat with an apostle. This time, we're inviting somebody I know will show up. The chair will not remain empty. It will now be, for the next 4 days, I go home next Sunday. I don't know if I'll stop my fast. That my wife and I are talking about that now, but it will be a Templeside chat with Jesus. We're inviting Jesus to come. I'm pretty sure he is not going to leave that seat empty. So tomorrow, the next 4 nights, is going to be a very special occasion for us.
Praise God. Praise God. Any requests to the audience? Any final push? Any petition? Anything that more people can do more of, better of?
Put a spotlight on what the Mormon Church is doing behind closed doors. Share it with everybody. Share it with, like, we probably don't have a non-member, or we probably don't have a Mormon group here. That's perfect. Share it with everybody you know. I just got an email that they said, you know what? There are Christian groups that are now praying for you, prayer circles for you. Great. We'll include in that prayer circle the apostles who make this change. So talk to everybody about this. That's the big thing. We want to put it. I don't know where the change is going to come. The apostles were putting pressure on them. They might make the change. It might be a grassroots, so we're encouraging all members. Take a stand. Don't let your children go behind closed doors. So it may be the members themselves, but there are some changes in the church that came from pressure from the outside. So the farther this wave of understanding and awareness goes amongst the general community, yeah, I would love it if the missionaries knocked on a door and they said, you know, on every single door, you know, we think you guys have some good stuff, but we're concerned about what our children would face. Has that changed yet?
Wow.
That would put all kinds of pressure on my church to do the right thing and protect our own kids.
Sam Young, thank you so much, my brother.
Hey, thank you, Shawn.
All right.
I love you, my friend.
Love you too.
God bless.
I'm going to see you down there before you leave.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
See you later.
Hey, Shawn.
Yeah.
If you were to come down during our 4 days,
yeah,
when it's going to be a temple-side chat
yeah,
with Jesus,
yeah,
I would love to participate in what we're going to do every night.
Okay, what time?
Well, we start at 7 o'clock.
All right. You'll see me one of these nights.
Okay, thanks, Shawn.
Hopefully I'm sober. Just kidding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, right now Sam and our next guests are hugging. You wonder why? Well, I'm sure they love each other. They might know each other, they might not. But our guest tonight, I don't know if he knew Sam was going to be here, but he's wearing one of Sam's badges.
I did.
You did know?
Sam told me he was going to be here.
All right, all right.
Oh, there we go.
All right. All right, I'll put it on right now, Sam. And I want you to know I am not a badge wearer. So this is I am supporting you completely. There, I will wear this until there's some success.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Sam Young, ladies and gentlemen, and right now we are going to our next guest, and former LDS author, compiler, printer, researcher, web originator, sites. We're going to learn about that.
Yeah.
To start off, Dan Weiss, like we do with all of our guests, because human beings are important, we want to know quickly where you came from, born, raised, family, religious upbringing, ideas of Mormonism, because you have some of those, and then just kind of stop when you are still active in the church.
Stop when I'm active in the church?
Until you start to become...
Oh, you're setting me up for something.
No, I am not. I don't set people up. I am not setting you up. Not at all.
I was born and raised in Santa Cruz, California.
Ooh.
One of the most liberal cities in the United States. And a lot of that comes through in my life today, for sure. Very liberal. My parents grew up as a Christian, Protestant. My parents were not very active in church at all, but we had a community bus that would go around the town and kind of gather up the kids, I think, to give the parents a break. And they'd gather up the kids and they'd take us to various churches. We'd attend one for like 6 weeks or so, and then we'd go to a different one. All different Christian denominations and Protestant churches. So that was kind of my background growing up. I was always a believer in Christ. And when I turned 15 years old, and this was while I'm still in California, a group of friends in high school introduced me to Mormonism. And these were very clean-cut, fun, joking, just endearing people that I wanted to be even closer to. And so they started telling me the story of Joseph Smith and the first vision and all of this. And I asked them if I could go to church with them. And I did. My first week at church was a fast and testimony meeting. The missionaries were there, and I went up to the missionaries and asked them how I could get baptized, which was golden contact, I guess you might say. And so after a series of discussions, like everyone has, I was baptized 43 years ago this month, as a matter of fact. We lived in California for 6 months after that, and then my mother, who's originally from Minnesota, decided she wanted to go back and be with her family, so we moved to Minnesota in 1976, and I had lived there for a couple years. I was very zealous. Our church that we attended was about 45 miles away. My home teaching route was a 300-mile round trip.
Whoa.
So, and there were no Mormons in this small town in Minnesota that I grew up with, and so I had to be very vigilant and very active in the church. Consumed a lot of books, read a lot, and then after living there a couple years, I decided, well, I want to be closer to the saints, and so I moved to Salt Lake City, and at one point I began working at Deseret Book, as a matter of fact, because I loved reading so much and wanting to be a part of that. I decided, well, let's give this a try. So I was very active at the time. One of the reasons for coming to Utah was also to find a bride, and I found the woman that I eventually married, and we had 4 children together, and she's very active in the church. She's in the Relief Society presidency now. None of my 4 children are active in the LDS church, although I've got one boy that attends a Christian church up in Layton, I believe. Okay. So, where am I supposed to stop now?
When did you start turning?
Oh, I would imagine that if people are honest, they start turning from the moment they start learning, which was the case with me. When I worked at Deseret Book, I was a book buyer at one point, so I was in charge of the lesser-known titles that might come through, and trying to determine whether or not they'd be worthy of being on the bookshelves in Deseret Book. So I would run across a lot of anti-Mormon literature that was trying to sneak its way in, and I'd have to read it. I was quite adept at answering the questions to my own satisfaction, and hopefully to those around me too. But I believe that even at those beginning times, I was getting a seed of doubt about what was going on. It's really, I don't have to tell you, it's really difficult to break through this barrier of Mormonism. You get so involved with it that it's hard to go backwards or to see anything more than just continuing on with it. And so, I would have these little cracks that would happen here and there. And ironically, as we're going to be going through my research and the things that I've done, most all of this didn't really play into my wanting to leave the church. Most all of this, the lion's share of what I do now came later. I just came to a crossroads in my life where I had said, that's it. I'm done.
How old were you?
I was 37 at the time. I had been active, very active in the church for 21 years. Attended the temple, tell you anything and everything you want to know. Very open book about the temple, the ceremony, everything. Probably went 400 times over the years. Just one day I decided I had had enough. And ironically, it happened, I had baptized all 4 of my children. And it was after I had baptized my daughter, Caboose, that I started, as a matter of fact, when they were trying to organize the baptismal ceremony, I had told my wife, I don't feel like being the one to speak. Can your brother speak or something? I just would rather not. I was already having kind of these feelings that I didn't want to go through with it. And then after I baptized her, I think that was the final straw where I said to myself, I'm just not being honest with myself and my children either about any of this, and I need to stop it. So.
Still married?
Yes, still married, yeah. We have had our troubles.
It's remarkable.
Doubt. Yeah.
Doesn't often happen that way.
Yeah, well, marriages have trouble?
No, it's remarkable that she's the Relief Society president. You've abdicated the throne at 36 and you're still married. I mean, that's a rarity.
Yeah. If you would meet her, you probably know why. Everybody that meets her and knows her will vouch for the fact that she's very saintly. She's a wonderful person and doesn't mean harm to a single soul.
You mean that's possible, to be LDS and be saintly and not harm a single soul? It is, isn't it?
It is. As a matter of fact, I know plenty of people that are. Yeah. And like I said, we've had our rough patches.
Sure.
And the idea or notion of religion has caused us to separate 2 times. We've been separated for 4 years at 2 different times. All my doing. It was, I didn't want to play second fiddle to the church, and she would always say that came first. So this last time it was more amicable, to where we said we've got grandchildren. You know, let's not make this messy. We're good friends. We've always been good friends, and so let's make this work as good as we can.
Good for you, Dan.
So it's been rocky at times, but it's fine. She's not completely supportive, obviously, with the things that I do. But that's okay. I'm not supportive of the things she does.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
So, one last question about: is your name still on the records?
No.
Okay.
About 5 years after that, I kind of decided that I was going to do it. It was more have my name removed. It was more an issue of feeling like that I was still attached to it in some way, and I was so distant from it. Yeah. And it was also giving her side of the family, I believe, hope that one day I would see the error of my ways and come back to the religion. And so I think ultimately it was one of those decisions where I just said, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
The time has come, and I don't want to be a party to it any longer.
Yeah. So we're going to go to, I'm going to just tell the audience, Dan has produced, and you might have to correct me, Defectors of the Faith, 2001 Easy Reasons to Dismiss Mormonism.
Yes.
Is that a book?
That is a website.
It's a website.
It's a website.
We'll get to that. The Book of Mormon Comparative.
Yes.
A book.
Mm-hmm.
The
You have it right here.
Handwritten Book of Mormon. You got to see these books. These things are beautiful. We'll talk about why in a second. And then the Book of Mormon Likely Resources. Is that
Likely
in progress?
Sources.
Likely Sources. Is that in progress?
That is in progress right now. That will be a internet-only project.
Okay.
It's too big to put in
Want
book
to have you go down and break down what those are and how people can access them.
Okay.
But before you do that, what is the driver behind you to produce and gather and systematize this information? Some people do it because they hate Mormonism. They hate Mormons. Some do it because they want people to be free and know that. What drives you to go to this work?
Well, some of the projects, I'll probably talk about them, what drives me as we get right to it.
Okay.
The crux of getting started with the entire thing is that I do not hate Mormons.
Good.
I am anti-Mormonism, not anti-Mormon.
Yeah.
I have never seen a benefit in persecuting people or trying to make decisions based on, oh, the bishop offended me, or I want the facts. I want to be able to say, show me the anachronisms in the Book of Mormon. Show me and disprove it if you can. Give me proof. Give me evidence that the church is either true or it is not true. Let's not second guess things. Okay. So I would say probably the driving factor in everything might be the fact that I was so involved in the sugar-coated aspect, let's say, of the church, that when real documentation, real history, real information, such as I've been happy to receive from you over the years.
Oh, good.
I've been a fan of your work for years.
Awesome, thanks.
I wanted to be able to get down to real answers to questions that may have arisen. And so a lot of this, especially the Defector of the Faith, which, by the way, is a play on words of an old B.H. Roberts book called Defender of the Faith.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just kind of stole that idea.
Nice.
Originally, there was going to be 1,001 easy reasons to dismiss Mormonism, and I found that that was too limiting to me. And so now it's 2001 plus easy reasons to dismiss Mormonism. I have more than 1,800 documented with a lineup of well over 2,000 to be. Right now on the website, there's close to 1,100 that I have posted of various things.
Oh, do we have a graphic for the website?
A graphic of the website, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
there it is.
LDSDefector.com, 2001 plus easy reasons to dismiss Mormonism. So fantastic. So tell us about that. What people will get there besides the obvious, and then we'll work through the other three things.
The Defector, LDSDefector.com, as the title suggests, the 2001 plus reasons to dismiss Mormonism, is kind of a potpourri, a trivia section, I guess. Eventually, the site is going to have like a randomizer, fact generator. I had it on a previous site. I got rid of it, and now I've been thinking more that I want to have it. Right now, if you go to that website and in the search bar type any word or topic or what you want, you'll get a list of the different facts that are pertaining to that idea.
Wow.
Tithing, blood atonement, the temple ceremony, anachronisms in the Book of Mormon.
How deep? Could you go Adam on Diamond?
I do have Adam on Diamond
Could you
in
do
there.
throat slitting?
It's on there. The throat slitting, all the temple things, the throat disembowelment, all the things. I discuss some of those. They may be part between like 1100 and 1700. Some of those are still yet to be added to it. But I am a very open book when it comes to all of the, especially the temple ceremony. I think is one of the biggest reasons why I believe you can call Mormonism a cult. Is because of the temple ceremony.
I see. And just for the audience's sake, can you kind of articulate what it is about the temple ceremony that makes it cultic?
Well, it's very symbolic. There's a lot of rituals. Men sit on one side, women sit on the other. There's a lot of standing up and sitting down. There's a series of secret handshakes and covenants and commitments you make in the temple. Up until 1990, there were oaths that you made that had specific penalties attached to them, that if I were to reveal the secrets of the temple, I could have my throat slit, I could be disembowelment, various ways that God could take your life if you broke those covenants. Fear, definitely fear.
Which is really central to a cult.
Right. Yeah. And one of the other things too is there's a part in the temple ceremony where you consecrate everything that you've been blessed with to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the building of the kingdom. So it's a very communal setting that way. They try to justify by saying, well, we're not asking for it yet, but if it comes down to it and you need to give it to us, we will hold you to your word. So,
and I just want to step off just for a second so that our viewers don't think that this show is solely picking on Mormonism, because totalistic methodologies are used in all sorts of religions and all sorts of Christian religions. Fear-based, you better or God will. So Mormons do it in a very, very effective way with the temple, but other pastors are doing it too when they talk about giving tithes and obeying the church and giving your time and talents to the building up of the church. It happens subtly in other religions as well. So you get the potpourri, you have a pretty good search engine thing set up, wonderful resource, and really glad to know that's there. I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
It's been a lot of fun.
Good.
For me. I would say probably 70% of what you will find on that site are direct quotes from general authorities. Wow. I'm a strong believer that that what you find perhaps in Mormonism is not the stuff that's been abandoned or changed or thrown away. It fails on its own merits, just from the very words of the prophets and apostles themselves. Yeah. And so there's a lot of damning evidence that Mormons and non-Mormons alike need to be aware of. I do this. I'm not in the conversion business. I used to be. Yeah. I would have loved to have converted everybody in the audience and you at the time. When I was working at Deseret Book, you can only imagine. It's very, very intense. But I'm no longer in the conversion business. I'm in the information business. I think that it does a great disservice to everybody if they're not informed. Yeah. One way or the other, I allow you to choose, but how can you choose if you don't know the differences?
Right with you, brother. Right with you completely. One final question relative to Defector 2001 Easy Reasons Plus. Are you keeping current, for instance, like Russell Nelson, the new president, goes to an African country and tells them that the reason they are poor is because they're not paying tithes or whatever that was. Do you
Well,
keep up with the modern?
I have been keeping up with some of the modern things. In redeveloping this website, I've kind of had to take a little bit of a break from the more current events.
Got it.
But everything up through about 2016, whenever something would come up, such as the policy denying gay couples of having their children be baptized, that's in there.
Got it.
Boyd K. Packer's infamous talk that he gave about homosexuality a few years back was on.
Did
Is
the
on
little
there
factory speech get in there?
No, the
You gotta get that one in
little
there.
factory is in there somewhere. I've got a quote or two by Boyd K. Packer about
The little
that.
factory is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
We'll tell you about that. I'm looking out there. There's no camera there. We'll tell you about that someday. Okay, the Book of Mormon Comparative.
Okay.
We have this here.
Yes, it's the one underneath there.
Okay. These again are beautiful books. Are these available?
Yes.
Okay.
The books are available to purchase. However, everything that you're going to see, Defector of the Faith, these two books, and the likely sources, all online. It's all free.
All right.
So I find myself looking through these quicker. Sometimes it's easier to access than the internet.
Got it.
I try to make it as easy as possible on the web to access the chapters and everything, but sometimes it's cumbersome.
Yeah.
But this particular book is comparing the original and printed printers' handwritten manuscripts that that Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery produced before the original 1830 edition of the Book of Mormon was published. So what I've done is I've taken those two handwritten documents and coalesced them. The original manuscript was the words is that Joseph Smith was speaking them, and then the printer's manuscript was a copy that Joseph Smith wanted Oliver Cowdery to make in case there was problems with losing the first copy. So, which he had a little episode with Martin Harris early on in losing 116 pages of the original. So the printer's manuscript, as some may recall, was the one that the church recently purchased from the Community of Christ. They paid $35 million for this book, for this document.
Wow.
So what I've done is I've taken that, which is almost 100% complete. The Community of Christ, which used to be the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, preserved it nicely and almost 100% intact. The original manuscript didn't do so well. Joseph Smith buried it kind of like a time capsule in the Nauvoo house. And it stayed there for many, many years. A matter of fact, when he was going to bury it, he said that he's had enough trouble with it.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had enough trouble with this. He buries it as a time capsule. The church comes back years later and says, wow, we really need to take this out of there. This is important. They take it out, and only about 25% of it is intact. It just he set it on a little ledge in there, and the weather just destroyed it. So, so the Book of Mormon Comparative, I coalesce the two.
Wow.
Where the original manuscript is available, I will use it, and so the entirety of the original manuscript is in the book.
Wow.
Where the original manuscript is not available, the other 75% is the printer's manuscript. So
Got it.
all of these are the original documents before the typeset version came out in 1830.
Amazing. Did
So-
E.B. Grandin keep that manuscript?
The original one,
Yeah, I mean, where do we get the printer's manuscript from?
the
Who
printer,
had it?
the printer's
Was that
manuscript.
Grandin?
No, that was through Emma, through the reorganized church, which she was
wow.
the head of. They kept it and preserved it all
No
those
idea.
years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, in a summary, just for the audience to whet their appetite to get online, what are some of the things they're going to find in this comparative?
Well, we've got I think
Okay.
we've got a graphic or two. The second one here coming up. Okay, might be a little hard for the viewers to really see, but if you take a look at this, the way I've arranged this is that anything that's in the original manuscript will be in blue text. And that's identified by got the OM right there with the
Up at the
dash.
top.
Is this the right one? No, we need to go back. Oh no, this is the correct one. Yeah. And then the PM is the printer's manuscript. That's all in black, since that's the lion's share of what we have. So, and then I kind of showcase one error that was made in it. This is in the Book of Ether, where originally Joseph had dictated the name King Benjamin, and he later went back and had to correct it because it was King Mosiah that he was actually talking about. So he corrected that after the first publication of it. So that actually happened 2 times in the Book of Mormon. So the way this is laid out is you have all of the original documents, the coalesced documents, in the left-hand column.
Okay.
And in the right-hand column, you have the current version that comes directly off of the church's website. And I've gone through, and what you see marked in red is every single change, whether it is a comma, a period, a semicolon, a full word, any change that was made is showing up in the right-hand column, so you can compare the two.
Got it. And the assessment of having gone through this tedious, amazingly tedious, comprehensive work, what do you say about it now that you've done it and you can see those two side by side? How do you explain what we have today?
Wow.
I mean, is it a grand clandestine operation to morph the Book of Mormon into something that it? I mean, how do you see the differences? Because that's a lot of work to come up with just differences in punctuation.
Yeah, everything you see in red in the book, there's probably 200,000 plus different changes. The Tanners produced a book talking about 3,900 changes to the Book of Mormon. I would say on heavy doctrinal matters, issues of where Joseph Smith may have said God the Eternal Father, and he meant the Son of God the Eternal Father, those sort of issues, you're probably limited to a couple dozen maybe that are pretty glaring problems with the Book of Mormon. So there's nothing that, I think I said earlier in the broadcast, that there's nothing that earth-shattering maybe about all of the different changes. The real condemnation in it comes in what stayed in many ways. And even though a lot of the changes come about grammar, punctuation, etc., that comes into play. There's plenty of that needed to be done, and some of that did change meanings of sentences. But now it's just a curiosity.
So, Dan, correct me, because I've been dealing with the Mormon side of things for quite a while now, but the biggest indictment to me is that the way the church is explaining it is Joseph Smith looked in the hat and he said the words appeared. He said the words. They wrote the words as they appeared, and then they double-checked somehow.
Yeah, they had to repeat it to make sure everything was
that
correct.
what he saw actually appearing to him in the hat, repeat, it was written down correctly. So how do you even have one mistake if God himself is giving you the words? And I just find that it's such a sketchy indictment.
It's baffling to me. In the first place, the rock in the hat narrative is only a recent development.
Yeah.
Historically, there were plenty of of people back in the day that talked about that, but the church, even today, many active members, even though this has now been put in the church essays on their website, many church members don't realize that the rock and the hat thing is the big deal. But yeah, the checks and balances, for me, having gone through this whole process, for me, one of the things that if in fact you're trying to claim that this is the divine work of God, can't God get grammar correct? What about punctuation? What about spelling? What about all of these things? Some of my Mormon friends think, well, that's asking a little bit too much, isn't it? I mean, this was kind of, spiritual and everything. I would beg to differ. I would think that a perfect being would produce, especially if this was to convince the world of the divine authenticity, that there would be no red marks in my book.
And called the most correct book on the face of the
By
earth.
Joseph Smith himself, the
Right.
most correct
Most
book.
correct.
Why is there 200,000 different annotations?
Really quickly, before we move on to the next project, is Dan, my grandson, he will say, I am it, and I will it. He's funny. He when he doesn't want to do it, he says, I am it, and I will it. When you read Joseph Smith's original speech, didn't he have some, what we would consider today, some hick? Wouldn't he say?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, and as people go through these books, they will see things like we were a-going someplace. They were a-scoffing at us. He would use these New England Yankee dialect.
Yeah.
And it's riddled in the Book of Mormon.
Again, is God speaking in Yankee dialect?
Right. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Let alone the fact that it's done in King James English, which was not a language spoken in New England at the time.
Oh, talk about anachronisms,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about the Handwritten Book of Mormon.
Okay. The Handwritten Book of Mormon was kind of an afterthought of the Book of Mormon Comparative, because it has all of the, we'll probably need to skip one of the graphics and go to the next one. Nope, go back a couple. Yeah, that'll.
The Handwritten
Yeah,
Book
that
of
one.
Mormon.
Yeah, the Handwritten Book of Mormon. Yeah. What this one is this is everything that I was just describing that was on the left side of the Book of Mormon Comparative, except this is done in what's known as sense lines. Most all of the handwritten documents contained no punctuation whatsoever. And so it's very difficult to read. These are, streamlined things. Some people feel like he was doing it like automatic writing, inspiration, let's just automatic write. I think Oliver Cowdery was doing what he could to try to keep up with the dictation that way. Anyway, it's very difficult to read. Even in the Handwritten Book of Mormon, it's difficult to read. But I've divided it out in what's known as sense lines, where a breath would be taken, or where there should be a comma, or something of that nature, and documented it that way. Oddly enough, what many Mormons don't realize is that the original manuscript had a header at the top, where Oliver Cowdery would write something to remind himself of what was on that particular page that he was reading, so he could go back. And that's highlighted down at the bottom in the where it says OM header. There's some different. Most Mormons, I didn't know anything about that until I got into this project.
I didn't know that.
So anyway, that one, I wrote the Handwritten Book of Mormon more for the active Mormon. The Book of Mormon Comparative, they'll take a look at it and they'll see the things in red, they'll see the changes, and they feel, you're just pointing fingers, trying to prove what was wrong and what had changed. I'm showing the differences, not necessarily to prove what's wrong.
Yeah.
That's up to them to decide.
Sure.
With the handwritten Book of Mormon, I wanted to just have the original manuscripts. I claim that the handwritten Book of Mormon is the closest copy of the Book of Mormon you'll get to the words falling from the lips of Joseph Smith as you could possibly get. The 1830 edition that was printed was typeset by a gentleman named John Gilbert for the most part, and he made more changes to the Book of Mormon than anybody since, even more than the church made in recent years. So he had his work cut out for him because he knew it was a very raw manuscript and no punctuation, and so he had to kind of do his best to make it publishable.
Fascinating. The one that's really interesting to me, I have a good friend, he's an attorney downtown, very smart, very angry, ex-LDS. He's certain that Book of Mormon was rigged. That's his deal. You're coming out with, this is the one I think is in progress, the Book of Mormon likely sources. Tell us about that.
Okay, we can move on to the, there's the cover of it. It will never be in book form, it's only on the internet. By the way, these three works, the Book of Mormon Comparative, the Handwritten Book of Mormon, and the Book of Mormon Likely Sources, are all on the website bomsource.com.
bomsource.com.
And that'll show up on,
there it is.
There's a graphic that shows that.
Fantastic.
Now the Book of Mormon Likely Sources, this one, I would like to think it's going to be a little bit more particularly interesting to your audience. Most everyone that has read the Book of Mormon, particularly Christians that have read the Book of Mormon, understand that there are a lot of things that are quite similar to the Bible. And why is that? My personal feeling is that he plagiarized a lot of the Bible in creating the Book of Mormon. There's been a really a huge campaign lately to say, well, the Book of Mormon, you know, we can find the source of the Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon source, the late War of 1812. You can read that and you'll see it. The first book of Napoleon, the Golden Pot. Everybody has their piece in the game that they want to throw in. I feel like most people have, actually most people that claim to want to be finding the source of the Book of Mormon openly admit that the greatest source for the Book of Mormon is the Bible.
Yeah.
So this initial launch of the Book of Mormon Likely Sources, I've only got the first 10 chapters of 1st Nephi on the website right now, and the graphic that we had up there shows the something from 1st Nephi right there. The crux of what I'm going to be doing with this is going to be for the Bible initially. I'll be throwing in the other things because there's plenty of other interesting data.
Got it.
Such as I've actually included some of Joseph Smith Sr.'s his vision that he had, his dream, that parallels so closely Lehi's dream that is in the Book of Mormon, that Joseph obviously got from his father. So as I've been documenting this, I've got a friend that I'm working with in Moab that is kind of the tech computer wizard guy, and we're getting ready for a big data dump of the Book of Mormon likely sources, and then it will show the Book of Mormon verse by verse and show the various things. So let's go back to the graphic real quick. I know we're kind of running short on time, but
5 minutes.
If we could take a look at that.
While we're looking at that, Dan, did Michael Marquardt's work on Bible comparatives help you at all in this?
A little bit. I I've got a lot of, most of this is independent because of the fact that I'm using as my source for the Book of Mormon this coalesced Book of Mormon, because I want to try to have the original documents to see how well they match up with Bible verses. Because sometimes the changes that have been made in it don't match up exactly to the Bible. And so that's been one of my things, is to try to document that a little bit.
You're doing the work.
So it's, well, a lot of this is just in the preliminary stages. But if we take a look, you'll notice that, let's go to the first one again. The blue box that you see on the left-hand side, and this is the format that's in the entire thing, has, you'll see the word proceedings. That's a word that's unique to the Book of Mormon. It's not found in the Bible anywhere. And so if there's a word that's unique to the Book of Mormon, it's in bold type and underlined. Everything else you see in there, everything you see in red in that blue box, is the 3-word plus word strings for that verse, everything that you can find in that. Then if you look over to the right, you've got all 3+ instances of 3+ word strings that show up. So some are not significant.
Right.
For example, in all the. Well, you're going to find that in every book you read. But there's 107 instances of it. 85 in the Old Testament, 10 in the New Testament, and 12 in the Apocrypha. I've included the Apocrypha because Joseph Smith's Bible had the Apocrypha, and there were very many things in it that he used, none of which is more important than right at the bottom there you can see Second Maccabees, where he uses the name Nephi.
That's awesome.
Nephi comes from his Bible.
Yeah.
The actual word Nephi does. So that's that. The next graphic, as you go further down, then we kind of dial it down a little bit more to where we are anything that is less than 3 instances. I show the Bible verse and compare it to the Book of Mormon that way. All single word matches, as you get closer up, single word matches in each book are in purple. So sometimes there's some interesting correlation to that. I think anyone that's been a student of the Bible, especially Christians, understand the need for memorizing scripture verses. Joseph Smith was the same way. Brilliant mind.
Brilliant.
And so he had a lot of these verses going on in his head while he was formulating this.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% convinced it was solely Joseph Smith. Part of me leans more toward the fact that it might have been his father that had generated the Book of Mormon. The ideas of Sidney Rigdon and the Spalding manuscript and all that, there's not enough basis, but there's interesting arguments that are really difficult to dismiss with that too. But as you're going through this too, you'll notice there's a red bar in between the verses. That is what I'm considering a significant verse. For example, you've got the 2 verses, the one from Corinthians and the one from Wisdom, where he uses the mysteries of God, which is a very unique. You don't hear that usually in everyday lingo with people. Obviously, he stole that directly from the Bible. Anyway, you've got the Book of Mormon side, the Bible side there, and that's a project that the reason why it'll never be in book form is my estimate on this is that it's going to be about 8,000 pages of data when all is said and done.
Amazing.
The book of First Nephi, chapter 1. If you were to average out how many 3+ word strings there are on average per verse in First Nephi, chapter 1, there are more than 1,900 3+ word combinations that happen. So it's a lot of data. There has been other research done by different people, never with the original documents the way that I'm doing it, but it's going to be a long time getting all of this. Even when I have the raw data, putting it all together, the Book of Mormon Comparative, Handwritten Book of Mormon, they're listed on the website by chapter. The Book of Mormon likely sources, there's so much data, it has to be listed by verse.
Wow.
So you kind of have to drill down another bit. But if you ever happen to be in an argument with someone who says, that's distinctly from the Bible, I think, you can go to the website, and if you know what the Book of Mormon verse is, you'll have all the references to the Bible, King James Version, and the Apocrypha, since that's what Joseph Smith was using, handy to you at all times.
What a fantastic contribution to the whole thing. I really, really personally thank you. I'm going to use it personally.
Good.
I recommend it later. Give us the sites again.
Okay. The trivia one, various Book of Mormon facts, is LDSDefector.com.
LDSDefector.com, and the second one?
The second one, which comprises the other 3 volumes, is BOM, Book of Mormon, BOMsource.com. You can access all 3, kind of color-coded things in there, try to make it easier. There are a lot of symbols that I use, syntax, that there's a tutorial page you can watch, a little slideshow that kind of helps you understand what different things are on it to make it easier in understanding what I've produced there. So.
My brother, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share this. This is Heart of the Matter, and so it wouldn't be the show, and I don't want to set you up and put you in a position, but I do have to offer this last part. And that is, I don't know where you are, but I do know that a lot of people who have been burned by Mormonism discard everything. And my petition, not knowing, you may be, who knows, but my petition is, if you have done what so many people I love have done, and that's tossing everything out the window that has to do with God, is to consider Christ again, if you have, and give him a shot. That's always the petition. It's just an invitation, purely out of love for you and appreciation, really, for everything you've done.
I am an atheist. I did abandon once I felt like I had the truth with Mormonism, and so. Most Christians would say, well, you threw the baby out with the bathwater, you should have held on to Jesus. Well, I think you can hardly go through a project like this Book of Mormon likely sources and be involved with so much of the Bible all the time. You'd be in error to say that I have thrown out Jesus completely. I admire and respect the teachings of Christ. I also do of Buddha, of Muhammad, of any great thinker that is out there. And so I find myself very often reflecting about my life, about Christianity, about faith. And so
nice to hear.
I appreciate it. And
I consider you my brother, atheist or not.
Same here.
Thank you.
Shawn.
Dan, so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And we hope that your work will continue on.
If you need me to come back at any time.
I would look forward to further conversation.
Yeah, especially as likely sources gets a little further on. I may be finding, I'm still doing a lot of research with that.
I bet you are.
So as I know I'm going to find nice little nuggets. Oh, by the way, after doing these exact word matches, I'm going to do another set with synonyms.
Whoa.
Because there are a lot of words that are close to, there might be the word thee, could be you instead. And synonyms sometimes play in, because Joseph, he didn't always get his King James English correct either. So there's a crossover synonyms that I think will be interesting. That's a little further down the road. The same with adding things like from the late war or some of these other sources Shakespeare, things that he threw in there that are obvious were resources he used.
Look forward to following up.
Thank you, Shawn.
Next week, Dan Ellis, atheist of Utah, will be with us. God bless you. We'll see you next week here on Heart of the Matter.